it's the next level.
Vessemir said to me that the world outside these walls is a dangerous place. But times are changing. Even here.
Hey panelers, welcome to the show. I'm Steve.
Hi guys, I'm Lara.
And this is going to be a spoilerful podcast about the second episode of The Witcher Season 2. So Lara, why don't you give us the title of the episode and a little synopsis that IMDb gave us?
Sure. Episode 2 is called Kaer Morhen, and the synopsis is: seeking a safe place for Ciri, Geralt heads for home. But danger lurks everywhere, even in Kaer Morhen. Yennefer's dreams could be the key to her freedom.
Very cool. I went back and I rewatched Season 1, Episode 3, Betrayer Moon, that's the one that the girl prostitute talks about. It had the same girl. She says she washed wyvern, or she washed something out of his hair. He corrects her and says Basilisk. It was wyvern.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was wyvern blood. But it was the episode that she's referring to was the one about the Striga with the princess, the brother who had impregnated his sister, and then the court guy had put a curse on her, and he had to fight the Striga until the sun rose. He couldn't let it get back into its crypt. He wanted to break the curse, not kill the Striga. So he broke the curse by fighting with it until the sun came up, not letting it get back into its crypt before the sun came up. It's also the episode where Yennefer got her beauty as well.
Okay. So that was the same prostitute?
Yes, that was the same prostitute. And apparently now she's running the house. Yeah. So it's been a little bit of time. Yeah, exactly. So, so that's what the episode is kind of based on. And so what were your initial thoughts there?
So I had to watch this one a few times. It was really dense, especially Yennefer's storyline. It's just like, Game of Thrones. There's so many characters, all these religions, all these gods and everything. So I was just trying to get that straight. And so actually, for extra credit, I went and watched The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf, which I would highly recommend. It is really good. It's animated, but it gives us some of the backstory that we've heard hints about, but we haven't seen yet. If you haven't read the books or played any of the games, it gives us Vessemir's backstory. It tells us like the really horrific way that these young boys become witchers. It gives us the backstory of what happened to Kaer Morhen, what led to its downfall, and I highly recommend watching it if you want some of this like backstory, because I don't know if we're going to get it in the show, and I'll try not to spoil parts of it, but it gives you a lot of background.
No,
so
thank
that
you
that actually helped me like the episode a little more because I could understand it in context.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because I had a lot of questions. My notes are kind of all over the place with this one, so I've got a bunch of, everything's intermixed in between my different topics, so we'll see how that goes. But I enjoyed this episode a lot. It brought back memories of my my military days and the kind of the camaraderie that we see there among the Witchers. I was never at a party quite that outrageous, but we did have some good times, I will say. So it was nice to see the different Witchers, and I think I counted there at the end, and I think there was more than 10, but there wasn't 20. So they've definitely lost a few, as he says at the beginning of the episode when Ciri asks, how many are there, and I think he says well, there were 20, but I have no idea how many are there now.
Yeah. And we know they lost one for sure, because in that same episode, Betrayer Moon, he finds one of the Witchers that have died.
Yeah, because he didn't know it was a Striga. He thought it was a different
Like a
beast.
werewolf creature.
Yeah, a werewolf type creature, and not the Striga. So, yeah, unfortunately. So you had, I like this. You did a little bit of digging and kind of revealed some of our new faces and places that we've got here. So I kind of highlighted the different ones that you put in the doc. So if you want, let's do those first before we get into our topics. So we kind of set up who's in what place, because that's kind of in my notes as well. But again, my notes are just really scattered.
So we find ourselves, Ciri and Geralt going to Kaer Morhen, which is the Witcher's winter home, highly secretive, where the Witchers go to rejuvenate and heal and refresh their potions and elixirs. This one is the School of the Wolf, where Geralt trained to be a Witcher, and there are other Witcher schools throughout the continent as well.
Oh, see, I wasn't aware of that. That's kind of cool. We also meet Vessemir. He's the mentor, the trainer, kind of a father figure to all the remaining Witchers here at Kaer Morhen. And, they talk about it in one of their conversations. Geralt talks about the fact that he's the last one. Vessemir was the last one left to train all of these other guys. Mm-hmm. So that this culling or whatever happened to kill a bunch of Witchers, that's what you're saying is in that Nightmare of the Wolf. Okay, have to check that out.
And again, I don't want to give away what happens. You have to go watch it. We also get to see Eskel in this episode. He is one of Geralt's brothers in the School of the Wolf, and he has apparently just gotten into a bit of a tussle with a Leshy.
A Leshy, yeah. We meet Francesca, the elf. This is a female. That was the mage, right? The female mage elf. She's kind of leading this band of renegades. She replaced that guy, Philavandrel. Who he was the guy we met in the season 1, right? Who was kind of leading that group that Geralt kind of interacted with. And she's having these visions of this ancient prophet, and we'll talk more about that because that's a whole huge part of the episode itself.
Yeah. And we've seen him before, like you said, but returning is Filavandrel, the former king of the elves. Geralt and Jaskier met him in season 1 in the episode where they met each other, and they went to go find a goat man hiding in the mountains. Yeah, and that episode was also the inspiration for Jaskier's very catchy "Toss a coin to your Witcher."
very catchy tune.
The song that gets stuck in your head.
Exactly. Very, very good. So with that, and one of the others was called Lamb Chop. They kept calling. I don't know if that was his actual name or like a nickname. I'm not sure, but they did definitely have one called Lamb Chop. And
I think it's Lambert.
Lambert. No, the subtitle said Lamb Chop though, so maybe his name is Lambert.
Yeah. I think his nickname is Lamb Chop.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Well, with that, we can kind of get into our top 5 discussion points. And just to let you listeners know, Lara and I have not discussed our top 5s this week, our discussion points. So neither one of us knows what the other one has up their sleeve. So we're going in blind, doing something a little different than we've usually done. So we'll see how that works. So as I said to Daphne when we recorded for Snowpiercer, I am a gentleman all the time. That's the way I was raised. So I will let the lady go first.
Yeah, you're so sweet. And I'm hoping that you have some points that I had to leave out because I just had so many points this episode that I couldn't get them into 5. So I'm hoping you have got them on yours.
There I am, freezing my bollocks off in the middle of a grain field for the second straight night, when the farmer's wife comes sneaking out to tell me that I'm wasting my time. It wasn't Amora her husband saw leaving their room. No. It was the fucking field hand. Oh, now she's wailing. Oh, what are we going to do? My husband won't pay you if you don't deliver a more ahead. So I pulled out my sword and I said...
My number 5 highlight was the frenemy road trip with Yennifer and Fringilla. We completely forgot to mention in the last episode that they were captured by elves. Now their whole party got killed. They wake up and they're in this caravan, apparently captured by elves. They find out that they've both been having these prophetic dreams, and Yennefer's dream at the very beginning, which kind of throws you off a little bit, is her having an ordinary life with Geralt and expecting a baby. Starts off as a dream, becomes a bit of a nightmare when she sees a red-robed figure taking her baby away, and the crib sets on fire, and they team up to try to get away from the elves.
Yeah, this was an interesting, because the opening was kind of mine. That whole dream within a nightmare kind of thing was my kind of first point, and it threw me off a little bit at first. I was like, did I skip over something, or have I missed something? But no, and that's interesting. You bring up the elves, because I've got that is intermixed in my points as well. But we noticed that we see that the baby, when the cloaked figure is carrying, has elven ears. Obviously, that's a tie-in to her elven bloodline. Her father was half-elf. And she sees a red-robed person. Fringilla sees white-robed. No, which one was the white robe? Which was the black robe?
The black robe was Fringilla's dream.
It was Fringilla's, right. And then the white robe was the elf Francesca's dream. Mm-hmm. So that's all. That's kind of. Do you think there was significance of the color of the different cloaks? Was it just the way it was? Is this? I'm throwing a bunch of stuff in here because, like I said, my notes are all over the place. Is this foreshadowing to what we're going to get with Yennefer, or is it just what she wanted? Because that's the demon. We'll talk about the witch in the woods at some point as well. The dreams, but we'll stick with the dreams right now. The dreams are showing them what they want, right? Because it's showing Yennefer she wants a baby, she wants a life with Geralt. Even if she doesn't realize that that's what she wants, that's what kind of what she's longing for. But I think by the end of the episode, even the dream starts to kind of change into, you want something different. Mm-hmm. Fringilla wants the usurper to be able to take control, who has control of Nilfgaard, but wants them to also finish their conquering ways. And then, of course, the Francesca wants the elves to be restored to power as they were before. So the elves were kind of the power before the conjunction. Mm-hmm. Is that what we're trying to understand? Okay.
Yeah, so I think they were the indigenous people of the continent. And apparently this conjunction happens that we get little bits of information on. And that's when humans and monsters were kind of multiverse teleported into the continent.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, what do you think? Is there any significance of the color of the robes, or?
I didn't think about it, but just like off the cuff, the dream tells Yennefer that she wants power, and in a lot of cultures, like Asian cultures, red is a color of power. Fringilla is looking for hope, and so her dream is wearing the white robes, maybe symbolizing hope. And Francesca, not Fringilla. And Fringilla, I think she was trying to overcome fear, because she said that her dream was of, I forgot, I didn't write down his name, but that soldier, the Nilfgaard soldier who saved her after she'd been kind of imprisoned in a playhouse for several years. So
right.
Maybe the black indicates fear, or trying to overcome fear.
It could be the red for Yennefer, because she used that fire and she burned out her power, apparently, that we see at the end. She can't portal out, and even the witch kind of asks her that. Well, why haven't you portaled out yet? And Yennefer realized, and we see her. I didn't understand it the first time through, so the second time through, I really got the anguish in her voice as I'm realizing she's running. She's all by herself. She's broken off from Fringilla and that group, apparently anyway. And she's running through trying to portal, and she can't do it. And that anguish on her face, and the actress played that so well, was really, really great. So
yeah. And I think you kind of got it in the dream too, or in the hut, because she's faced with her first test that she ever had. as a sorceress where she had to make the stone levitate, and she's trying to do it. It should be so easy for her, but she can't do it.
Wow. Yeah. So powerful stuff. All right. So what's your next one?
My highlight number 5 is Papa Geralt.
Aw.
And despite his denial and reservations, Geralt is kind of becoming a dad, or at least a father figure. Eskel provokes him by saying if he was ever given a princess, he would not be playing the knight, and that provokes Geralt to be a little aggressive with him. The madam, the prostitute, says to him, he's become a father, and she's like, well, if you don't want her, we'll take her, and she'll be so popular with the boys. And Geralt gets really pissed off with that, and so she's like, oh, and you say you're not a father. So he has that nice talk, that little heart to heart with Vessemir about when how did you do it, you were left with all these orphan boys, and he says he didn't. He taught them to protect
Fend
themselves.
for themselves. Fend for themselves is what he said, yeah.
Which at the very end, plays out because you see Geralt speaking to Ciri, and he realizes, which, as a parent of 2 girls myself, and any parent knows, you can't always be there to protect them as you would like them. You can't build a bubble around them, because he was hoping to take Ciri there and build a bubble around her, and he realized even in Kaer Morhen, she's not safe, so he has to teach her to protect herself when he can't.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that scene at the end when he hands her a sword and he says, keep your sword close. Mm-hmm. And then they're training. And I don't, was that Eskel's blood still on his blade, or was the blade burnt because of the fire? I wasn't sure, but it was a powerful scene.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, the end of his blade, I noticed in the second watch, is still like, it's either black from being on fire, or it's the blood is stained it. I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see going forward what his blade looks like next episode, to see if he's got it cleaned off or not yet.
So yeah, that was my number 4. Geralt's becoming a dad, which is funny because Henry Cavill looks like he could just be maybe Ciri's older brother, but you have to realize he's probably maybe 100 or a couple hundred years old.
At least, yeah, exactly. My next one was, I wanted to talk a little bit about the elves. We've already kind of talked about them. They're digging at that place that looks like Aretushka, that looks like that tower, and they said, that the elves, that Sintra burnt it down or something like that. I didn't understand that whole conversation.
The thing is, Sintra used to be an elven city, and the tower that they saw looks like the tower at Aretuza, because that was also an elven establishment, but they burnt this one down because they said they'd rather burn it than leave it for the humans.
Gotcha. Okay. And so they're digging, they're trying to find this passageway, or they're trying to find this altar, whatever it was. They finally find it, and they get these stairs going down into the ground. That's when we get the information about Phila losing his throne, and kind of being where Francesca's kind of took over as the leader, because she's the mage and she was having these visions. Yennifer reveals to them that she's part elf, and she says that there's no full-blooded elves being born. Now, does that mean, is this whole group not full-blooded elves, or are they the last of the full-blooded elves?
I'm guessing some of them, if they're old enough, are full-blooded elves, but probably the younger ones have intermixed with humans because there's probably so few elves remaining.
Right. Okay.
And it sounds like they're not really able to even bring full-blooded elves to term.
Right, because Francesca says she's never brought one to term, so I don't know if she's attempted to bring a full-blooded elf to term or not. So, but I thought all that was interesting, and that was that was part of her dream. Not just to restore the elves to power, but she wants them to be, I hate to put it like this, but she wants them to be a clean bloodline again. She doesn't want mixed bloodlines, and that's an interesting story arc to see how that moves forward. So I just thought that was interesting, all the different elves and seeing what they were doing, and the song. Yennefer says she's never heard the song with words, she's only heard the music. And I don't know where she heard that music from, or if she was lying, I don't know.
Which is different than like a lot of high fantasy stories. Usually the elves are these regal creatures, and they're usually the most intelligent and the most advanced of the races. And here they're basically refugees in their own land. They've been completely displaced, and they're essentially trying to be wiped out by the humans. I mean, Calanthe, Ciri's grandmother, was notorious for trying to wipe out the elves.
Yeah, so there's definitely been this clash between the humans and the elves for a long time, and we're going to see more of that apparently going forward, especially now that Fringilla has kind of formed this loose alliance, I guess, with the elves and taking them to the north to see if the north is going to accept them. We'll see. But yeah, that was mine, just kind of more talking about the elves and stuff. So what's your next point?
Kind of touching back on the dreams again of the three robed figures and the deathless mother. So like you said, Francesca and the elves have been searching for this secret passage under this ruined elven city. The altar that they find is Ethylene, a sacred elven prophet. And each of them, I think we've kind of discussed this pretty well, that, you know, they each get something they desire. I do find it funny that Francesca and Fringilla, they kind of come to this shared purpose of helping each other to get what they want. But Yennefer's dreams, she dreams of this child, but then the child kind of turns on her and points out to her that you don't really want a child, you want power, and now you've lost your power, and, what are you going to do about it? And she gets really, I'm not at a loss for it. She's unkind to her, and then she actually reveals her true face to Yennefer. She's the only one that she reveals her true face to.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because I've got some of this in my notes as well that I thought was interesting. That as I watched it the second time, each of them I think Yennefer was the first one to kind of figure out that she wasn't actually talking to the person that she thought she was talking to, and I think that's because she wasn't talking to someone who she had a real memory of, I'm assuming. And so she was able to figure out that, wait a minute, this is not really your face. And so Yennefer's starting to figure out you're not. And then we see Fringilla. I think Fringilla was next, that she started to go, wait a minute, you're not that knight, you're something else. And then we see the same thing with Francesca, where she's like, you're not Ilithnia, you're someone else. And you see this slow dawning on each of them that they're dealing with something else. And I loved how it wasn't spoken directly, but I think it had to be the demon, right? The demon that killed Clef, that the Witchers secluded in the woods, because obviously this is the witch in the woods, and she's trying to find a way to get out. And I just love the whole intertwining of that story, because I don't think I really figured it out the first time watching it, but it was the second time watching it through, I went, oh, they're in her woods. They're not just in any woods, they're in her woods. And that's what Vessemir says. He says, anyone who enters her woods begins to hear this calling. And so that's when I started drifting about it, not necessarily being foreshadowing of what is going to happen to Yennefer, but more of what she kind of wants to happen, of having a child. So yeah, all that stuff was really, really great. And I love seeing the way these stories intertwine and getting to see it earlier rather than later. Because I think the last time when Mark and I did season 1, we basically had both watched all 8 episodes kind of in a binge. And when we did the podcast on it, we were rewatching the episodes. So we were kind of starting to see those little interwoven kind of things. And we realized that Geralt was there at the castle there in episode 3. We see Geralt when they're children, he's there. And then now as the old man king is king now, that's the boy that Geralt saw
Yeah.
you know, when he was a child. So it's all this kind of stuff that we start to see, and we start to realize that again, going back to that episode 3 of season 1, we figure out in that episode that Yennefer's origin story is many years, 30, 40 years before the storyline. I'm sorry, it was Yennefer interacting with the girl and the king, the brother and sister, and we realize that her origin story is many years before she even meets Geralt, and so starting to see those kind of things and those connections just makes you get excited about where the series is going to go and what we're going to learn moving forward. I have no idea where we're at because, like I said, my notes are all over the place. So I'm going to jump into one. The artifacts that Ciri is looking at as she's kind of exploring the Witcher castle, and you know, Eskel tells her it's not a castle, it's a shithole, but yet she's looking at all these different things, and then she encounters Vessemir, who starts to tell her some of these stories. And he's like, well, this is Kelf's armor, and this is what was used to kill him. And I read a little of the IMDb that some of those swords and stuff are actually from the game, or Easter eggs of the game, and I guess the books, if you know the books. And when he hangs up Eskel's necklace with all those other necklaces, I was looking for the one from that episode, Betrayer Moon. I think I saw it in there, but I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, it had to be there because Geralt should have brought it back. Mm-hmm. You would think at some point for them to add to that collection.
Yeah. If he was from the same Witcher school, so I don't know. We'd have to go back and watch Betrayer Moon and see if it was a wolf on the medallion.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was a wolf type. It was some sort of wolf type creature that was on there. So because they didn't, all the medallions were slightly different. They weren't all the same kind of sigil. They were slightly different. And I think I'm pretty sure that one was a wolf, and I would expect that's why Geralt took it in that episode there in season 1.
Cool.
So let's see where we're at. Are we at your number 2 or your number 1?
I'm at my number 2.
Okay.
Which is the influence of Russian and Slavic folklore in this episode. I'm a big fan of ancient mythology and folklore, and okay, I'm going to try this again. Andreas Sapkowski, okay, the writer of The Witcher. Similar to another one of my favorite writers, Neil Gaiman, he weaves a lot of ancient mythology and folklore into this world, especially where he's from, that Slavic folklore. And if you're familiar with that, you will no doubt relate The Witch in the Woods to the Baba Yaga, which is a Slavic kind of boogeyman. Well, it's not a boogeyman at all. It's really supposed to be an old woman, an old hag, an old witch that lives in the woods. Traditionally, she lives in a house that's supported by chicken legs, and she lures young children into the forest to eat them, which is exactly what Fringilla tells Yennefer. She says her dad used to tell her tales of the witch in the woods who lured children into the forest to boil and eat them. Even the incantation that Francesca says at the hut, that says, "Hut, hut, turn your back to the forest, turn your front to me," and it spins around like that. That is right out of the stories and legends of the Baba Yaga.
Oh, wow. That's really, really cool. Very good. Yeah, I love that scene, that her repeating that incantation and the hut spinning around toward them, and then they're all kind of sucked into it, transported into it as their dream, and we figure out that their dreams have not been dreams. It had been this witch putting it into their minds. So very, very cool. Let's see. I've almost got all of mine. But I wondered, how long is winter going to last? Because you mentioned at the beginning that that's what Vessemir says, that this is where they stay for the winter. I wonder if we're going to get several episodes here in Kaer Morhen, or if they're going to do a time jump or something to get us through the winter. I'm interested to see where the next episode goes and how long it covers time-wise. But I just loved the interior of Kaer Morhen, because it looked like as he walks in, it almost looked like it was that abandoned village from the last episode as well. But this time there's fires going and you can hear noise and stuff. And I absolutely loved that scene with him up on the telephone pole things doing the training. It reminded me of a 80s, 90s movie, Remo Williams, where he's training for karate and stuff. And Remo Williams was a series of novels that were written about this guy who was training to be a martial arts master. And they did a movie about it with Fred Ward. So,
I saw that. Wasn't it called like
Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins.
And Ends, because that was the
because
only,
they never went anymore.
only movie.
It had Joel Grey playing this ancient Asian karate master. It even had Kate Mulgrew was in it, and like it's late 80s, early 90s. I can't remember. It had one of the classic Statue of Liberty fights. Is in there, and just there's some great lines in it that I really liked, and it's one of those guilty pleasure kind of movies that didn't do really well, but it's fun. It's a fun watch if you ever get a chance to do
I always
it.
thought it was funny that it's called The Adventure Begins and never went anywhere from that.
Yeah, unfortunately. So what is your number
Kaer
one?
Morhen is in ruins because of everything that happened in the Nightmare of the Wolf, and apparently they never went back to fix it up again.
Yeah, but it makes for a good hideout, I guess. In the winter, except it's cold.
Yeah.
I love that exchange between him and Ciri, where she says she found a room that had rats in it, and he goes, "Well, that must be one of the warm ones."
Yeah.
Then.
And I think they do a really good job of making it look cold, kind of like in the Stark's home in Winterfell. It just looks cold all the time.
Yeah, I love. It's one of my favorite things to watch, whether it's real life or on or a fictional show, to see snow on an HD TV. So it's I love watching the little flakes and being able to see it on a high definition TV.
All right, I'll get to my number one. And so my number one was the theme of legacy and progeny. We learned from the witch's hut that Francesca's pregnant, but she's never been able to bring any of her pregnancies to term. Yennifer says that there hasn't been a pure-born elf in ages, and the mages and the witchers of the continent, though long-lived, aren't able to have children. They're made, not born. I'm wondering if legacy is going to have a big, a lot of concentration in this series, because there's a lot of focus on children and the ability or inability to have children, and also kind of like building foster families like Tisea and Vessemir. They basically become foster parents to their students. It just seems like there's a lot of focus on legacy and progeny, and they also mention that the monsters aren't able to reproduce. So basically, if the monsters are gone, then, there's not any more coming. And, but something could happen with the monsters, because apparently this Leshy they find is different than other Leshies. It seems to be mutating.
Yeah, and that was another question that I had that I was a little confused about is we've heard several times in both seasons, characters refer to witchers as mutants, which are my understanding of a mutant. If mutant has the same definition all across the board, it's someone who's born with some sort of power or something like that. But then we also know that they do go through some sort of training as well, some sort of extensive training. So I wonder if maybe the witchers prior to the group we have now were more like naturally born, who were just trained into having these skills and these fighting. But when the Nightmare of the Wolf happened, which I'm going to have to watch now, because that was a huge part of my notes, was not understanding what was going on there. I'm going to need to watch that. After that happened, it seemed like the ones that Vessemir was left with to train were these mutant witchers. And so I'm excited to see if we get to see any more, because none of the other guys that I noticed anyway had the eyes like what Geralt has. But I'm excited to see what these other Witchers, if we get to see them do any sort of fighting separate from Geralt. But I mean, what do you think about that as far as whether is this group mutants, were they mutants, or is it a different definition of mutant?
Well, I'll let you know that some of these Witchers are in Nightmare of the Witch or Nightmare of the Wolf, and they are mutated through magical potions and mutations that they take. It's a ceremony called the Trial of the Grasses, where they have to endure, and I think they mentioned it in season 1 too, they have to endure this sort of magical mutation that transforms them. So it's unlike, like the X-Men, they're not born with these gifts, but they're given
but they're
to them.
mutated. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense, I guess. My final one is just, again, I keep going back to these Monster of the Week fights that are just so good, and it was dark. It was a very dark scene. I don't mean like light wise. It was dark. So I'm not a guy I don't know that much about CGI, but it looked really good to me. Like the CGI of him fighting Eskel as the Lechy was really, really good. Every time they showed, Eskel's kind of face and mouth and stuff. There was only one moment where it looked like he had some sort of gigantic tongue in there that kind of took me out of it. But other than that fight was really, it was great when he burns the tentacle and he's able to get past it. And then there at the end with him and Vessemir fighting together back to back, and then Vessemir kind of trapping it and it grabbing Vessemir. And Geralt, have we seen him? Has he done that before? With his sword?
He lights the sword.
Lighting it
No,
on
we
fire.
haven't seen him do that before.
Okay, I thought I had seen him do that before. That was really a cool effect to have him draw his hand along the blade and it lights up on fire, and then he stabs it through the heart, because that's what they said at the beginning. You got to put fire through the heart to kill it. Yeah. I thought was just great. I just, these fight scenes to me anyway, and really you got to figure that's Henry Cavill or the stuntman maybe for part of it. I don't know. He probably does most of his own stunts, I would assume. He's a young guy. He's pretty powerful. Mm-hmm. So he probably does most of his own stunts, but he's doing that he's probably doing it with a tennis ball or some guy in a suit, but he's got to act like it's this big, gigantic, huge monster that he's actually fighting.
Yeah, I was hoping that you would bring up this point, because I got to my points. I'm like, I didn't even cover the fight with the Leshy. But I agree. The CGI is pretty good. I like the creature design. I like that, kind of like our creature from last week, the Bruxa, he almost is like a spider, like those wooden tentacles pull out and he climbs along the wall like a spider or an octopus or something like that. That was cool. And I even when they're doing that autopsy on the arm of the Leshy that he cut off, is so disgusting when they cut it open and there's all those grubs just climbing in there. Ugh, it's disgusting.
Yeah, I was just like, and Geralt's just kind of looking at it, and I was like, don't eat it, don't eat it, don't eat it. Like, I really thought he was going to take one of those and just, but he didn't. So I'm glad he didn't. But and I love Ciri's like, we're gonna get this. Like Ciri, it's like she's going to school. She's like, oh, good, we're gonna spend the winter learning about monsters. Mm-hmm. So it will be, like I said, I'm interested to see how long we stay here in Kaer Morhen, and what we get to see of Ciri's training and how that goes. But I'm excited for everything that was set up. This seemed, again, there was a lot of setup things in this episode, but that's what they do. They set up for what's coming on down the line. So
set them up and knock them down.
That's it. So that has covered all of my points and my notes. I don't think there's anything else that I had. Have we skipped over anything of yours?
I have a few notes. It's not quite the orgy of season 1, but we do get a wild party at Kaer Morhen with the Witchers and the working ladies of the night. I wonder, do we have to have one of these each season?
At least. You got to please those guys who like to see a little bit of skin.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hey, ladies like it too.
That was a good scene, and I liked that Geralt was kind of like the every party's got to have a pooper. That's why we invited you, because yes. Geralt's like, we shouldn't be doing this. And Eskel, why did you bring them in?
Guys, where'd all these party goers show up from? Mom and Dad
you know we're
said
supposed to be secret. Yeah. Really, really good. I loved it. I love it.
Even Vessemir doesn't seem to care that they're throwing a party.
Yeah. He's like, whatever. I think Vesemir at this point, I don't know how much older he is than the other Witchers, but I think he's at this point where he's just like, whatever, you guys are going to do what you're going to do.
Boys be boys.
Exactly.
Just a few other things. I did mention that earlier that the continent, kind of the stories of the continent are drawn on the cave walls about the conjunction of the spheres and the arrival of monsters. And when they're in that reliquary room, Ciri and Vessemir, the nods to the nightmare of the wolf. If you see the cartoon, there's nods to Vesemir's own mentor, Deglin's his name. And he does mention that Deglin died, fighting a man.
A human, yeah.
Yeah, so that is actually shown in the cartoon. And we see the Witcher's medallions vibrating when danger's nearby, as well as all the medallions on the tree. They start to vibrate.
I didn't notice that. I noticed it, but I didn't know what it meant. So now I got it. Okay, so that's what's magical about those medallions is they vibrate when danger is okay.
Or monsters, I imagine,
or
when monsters are nearby.
That's good. Okay.
And those are my notes.
Okay. You have any quotes?
A few. Vessemir, he says to Eskel, "Fire through the heart is the only thing that puts them down. 6 hours in, that didn't occur to you?"
I love that line. I wanted to put that in there, but it was too quick for me to catch. So I'm glad you got it. My first one is Yennifer to Fringilla when they wake up after being captured, and Fringilla says, "Fuck." And Yennifer goes, "Finally, an honest response. We're stuck here together. Who knows? We may even become friends again."
Yeah. So. And Geralt, he says, "We don't kill out of fear. We kill to save lives." Because Geralt is trying to walk the righteous path.
Yeah, I love that line when he's talking to Ciri when she's finally starting to open up to him, because that's what he told Vesemir. He says, I need her to open up to me about what happened because she lied to me about how she got out of Sintra and this and that, and so she's finally starting to kind of open up to him, and she says she wants to kill that night, and he says, "Well, we don't kill." That was one of my favorite lines as well. My last one is kind of a fun one. It was the right before we see Eskel's injury, but the girl says, "You took on that wooden beast. Let me take on yours."
I'm glad you wrote that one, because I didn't want to have to say it.
I figured that'd be better coming from me. So,
well, I'll say my favorite from Danica, which was, "I should know better than to bring my favorite whores to a Witcher den."
That was great. I loved how they ran out, and I'm assuming they made it out alive. We didn't see them later.
Oh,
but,
I'm sure. They run. That's what they do.
Yeah, I love that. We run, Witchers fight. Witchers fight, we run. So, yeah. Any other quotes from you?
The witch says to Yennefer, and it's a little bit enigmatic, but she says, "I'm going to let you bake some more. I want your desperation crisp. You will beg me to take it from you, and I will." So that's a little weird. I wonder what she means by that.
I didn't understand that either, because I thought that meant she was going to be staying in the hut. But then immediately after that line is said, she wakes up outside in the grass and she hears Fringilla and the elves. So yeah, that's this witch is I'm sure we're gonna see more of this witch and see what happens. I checked
Oh, I'm sorry. My final one was, I just love this because Geralt, it's the voiceover that we get as Yennefer's running through the woods trying to build her portal, and she can't, and Geralt says, "You can't run from the world, you can't hide from it, but you can find power and purpose, a chance to survive the horror. And all you have to do, Ciri, is keep your sword close and keep moving."
Yeah, I love that. I checked. I didn't see any feedback. in the email or on Instagram. We did get some feedback from our good friend Derek over on Facebook. Derek from TV Podcast Industries. He tells us, enjoying your coverage as always. I'm not going to even try to do his accent, Derek. I couldn't do it justice. So, enjoying your coverage as always. I really enjoyed this episode. Finally getting to meet Vessemir was great. He's perfectly cast in the role. A bit of banter from the rest of the Witchers really adds to the scope of the show, and the evil within came as a big surprise, as it really felt like one of the ladies of the night was destined to be the monster of the week. I agree, Eric. I did not, Derek. Sorry, I just said Eric. Derek. I agree. I didn't expect the monster of the week to be one of our Witchers.
Yeah. And I saw that they just posted their review for episodes 1 through 4 of The Witcher, but I will have to put it on my waiting list since we are going through these a little more slowly.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait.
Listen once we're done.
Yeah, definitely for sure. We'll be listening to their coverage of those, and when they do the back half, maybe we'll get to send them some feedback. We'll see. So I didn't dig into any news because I don't want to get spoiled about anything. As far as podcast recommendations, I think I have just the normal one. I will say that House Podcastica wrapped up their coverage of Cobra Kai this week, but they are continuing their coverage of the Book of Boba Fett. So if you're interested in either of those shows, check out House Podcastica at podcastica.com.
And I will recommend, if you want to learn more about the Baba Yaga or any other kinds of mythology, a podcast that I love listening to is called Mythology and Fiction Explained. And if you go to episode 5, the entire episode is about the Baba Yaga.
Very cool. The only thing I know about the Baba Yaga is from John Wick. So,
which I think is so funny because that's a guy. It's a boogeyman, and the Baba Yaga has never been depicted as a man.
But as I've corrected people before, John Wick is not the Baba Yaga. John Wick is the man you send to kill the Baba Yaga. So if you remember from John Wick, he's the one who goes to kill the Baba Yaga. So
it clears it
very,
up a
very
little.
good. Exactly. I don't know why people forget that all the time. But as always, if you're listening to us on your podcast player of choice and you're able to give us a review, we would love to have that and be able to share it here. We also have a website, panels2pixelspodcast.com. We will post every week in our Instagram feed and on our Facebook page at facebook.com/panels2pixels. And Instagram is panels2pixelspodcast, all completely spelled out. We also have a Twitter, which is at panels2pixels with the number 2 there in the middle. So it's panels 2. I don't know why I'm holding my hand up with 2 fingers because they're not seeing me. Panels2pixels, the number 2 right there in the middle for Twitter. And then our email address is panels2pixels1@gmail.com. That's panels2pixels1, the TO spelled out right in the middle, the number 1@gmail.com. We are on YouTube at Panels2Pixels Podcast. And just all the other wonderful things that you can find at nextlevelradioonline.com. Check out our network, Next Level Network Online. It's a great network. Ben just put out another Wilhelm post, I think with Patrick Wayne. So that is very, very cool. So check him out, Wilhelm. And let's see, next time we will be continuing through The Witcher Season 2 with Episode 3, which is entitled, What is Lost? Not a question. It's a show about these characters that they crash landed on this island in their.
I still don't know.
In their.
I haven't seen
You've
it.
never. Oh my goodness! It's so good.
Lost. I'm a loser.
But anyway, so again, Episode 3, What is Lost? I didn't read the synopsis of it yet, so but we'll have that out next week. Lara, I can't believe I messed that up. Anything else you want to plug this week? I know you said you've got a Adrenaline Cinema podcast coming up soon.
It's coming up one of these days, and I'll let you know when it does. I don't have time to do my own podcast, but I thought in this segment, maybe I will just throw out ideas for podcasts, and I can get feedback on whether it's good or not. This week, it's going to be the Charcuterie Board podcast. Yes. Every episode will be brand new charcuterie board ideas.
Charcuterie Board Podcast. I love it. Somebody out there's got to do that. It's, British Bake Off had a podcast, so why not the Charcuterie Board Podcast? I don't know what you would call it. As always, I send voicemails. You can hear me right here. You will hear Daphne and I will be covering Snowpiercer again coming this week, the next episode. You can hear that. Those will be dropping on Wednesdays or Thursdays. And this will be dropping soon as well. So, we have come to the end. I'm Steve.
And I'm Lara.
And we'll see you. And this has been Panels to Pixels. And we will see you on the next panel. Good night.
Good night.